Welcome, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. We're going to start session C, play-based learning for math and science. And this is the first part. You're going to have a part 2 later on in the day. I'm going to be moderating this session for all of you that don't know me, and I think everyone, like no one knows me. I'm Juan-Pablo Giraldo. I'm an education and innovation specialist at UNICEF, the United Nations Agency for Children. And we're going to have 4 very, very interesting presentations today around these topics. The way this is going to work is that we're going to have the 4 presentations. Then we're going to have sort of discussion, a moderated discussion. And I'm going to combine that moderated discussions with questions from the audience. So if you have a question, just put it in the chat. Chanti and myself, we're going to be monitoring those. And without much further ado, let me introduce all of the presentations. I'm going to be introducing each presenter before the presentation, but the 4 presentations are building blocks. It all adds up with Mr. Ashok Kamath, the chair of the Akshara Foundation. Reinventing School Success, Mastery Learning Through Games with Dr. Joseph Adetunji Adegbesan, founder and CEO, and Lize Monametsi, Chief Operating Officer of the African Institute for Mentoring, Gidi Mobile, and Papadi Games. Then the 3rd presentation is going to be Mathika with Eyal Dessoutzafrir, CEO and co-founder of Imagine Machine Israel Limited, and he will clearly correct me if I destroy his business name. And then teaching the scientific method through games with Dr. Gordon Hamilton, Julia Robinson, Mathematics Festival team member, director of mathpeople.com. And as I told him, perhaps best known because he designed a great board game called Santorini, which you can get on Amazon, by the way, anytime. So without much further ado, Dr. Ashok Kamath, let me give a brief intro to Dr. Ashok. He is the chairman of the Akshara Foundation since 2008. He's been actively involved in the strategic planning, analysis, and expansion of programs at every stage. An alumnus of the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and he was formerly the managing director of the Indian operations of Analog Devices. Ashok is also a co-founder and trustee of Pratham Books and trustee of Shreyas Foundation, Ahmedabad. So, Dr. Ashok, please go ahead and start your presentation. Please, all other presenters, let's turn off our cameras and mute our microphones so that we leave the stage to Dr. Ashok.
Thank you, Juan-Pablo. Good morning to those of you in the United States, probably afternoon in Europe, and it's certainly late evening here now in India. I chair the Akshara Foundation, and I will walk you through a brief journey in the next 6.5 minutes, talking about our journey in teaching young children mathematics using a fair amount of technology. Our original concept was to work in the classroom. Math has always been taught as more of an abstract subject. And this is why we think that lots of people hate math. Math should have been taught as an activity-based subject with a lot of activities and fun, so children understand concepts as they go through the process of learning early math. And math is not necessarily only the 4 operations. Early math also includes data, shapes, measurements, and so on. So a good knowledge of all this would help children decide as they go forward with what to do with math in later grades. So our efforts in the early days was working closely with governments. And at this point, we have worked with 3 state governments in India and have a footprint of approximately 70,000 schools across these 3 states. And we support close to 3.5 million children with our methodology, pedagogy, and so on that we call GKA. About 4 years ago, we felt that since most of our beneficiaries are children who do not have a learning environment in their homes, and in the classroom, they usually get about 2 hours of math instruction per week. We felt that it would be a good idea to be able to transfer what is taught in the classroom through an activity-based kit onto a little screen that the family would own. So families would probably own a simple Android smartphone, and if the entire curriculum was mapped in as a set of games onto an Android platform. We chose Android simply because nearly 92% of all smartphones sold in India are Android based. So we went through this exercise of mapping all the themes and the sub-themes that are there in the curriculum and created a set of about 260 games, some of which were in the practice mode and some in the challenge mode. And it covered all the operations from place value, the number system, the 4 operations, and so on, data, shapes, measurements, and the entire curriculum was mapped. And we decided to make it available in 9 Indian languages so that we could maximize the number of children who could gain access to this. Of course, being a non-profit, this was a free product. The 9 languages include English. So those in the English-speaking world who feel that this is a good product, and early math curriculum tends to be similar the world over, they can have access to this from the Google Play Store. We also made it in such a way that it would work both offline and online. The reason we did an offline version is that many places do not have adequate phone network connectivity. And for those people, it would be better to download it once from a hotspot and then keep using it in the homes. So on each phone, they were able to host up to 6 different avatars. So 6 children could be anchored onto the same phone. Now, this product has been, in use since November of 2018, and we have probably 350,000 avatars in play right now through the Google Play Store version. Now, interestingly, as this was happening, the Indian government also set up a portal called Diksha, D-I-K-S-H-A, where content was housed. So we unbundled our entire set of games and put them up on Diksha and linked them to school textbooks. So think of it like this, that the 4th grade textbook has a chapter on addition. At the end of the chapter, there is a QR code, and if you can scan it, it will take you to the Diksha portal where our games are housed, and the children can use it, play it, and enjoy it, and learn math. And so we mapped all our little games to each one of the chapters for the grades from 1 through 5. In the last year, the year that ended in March, 4 states have done this QR coded textbooks, and they've printed 33 million textbooks. And we are hoping to work with many other states this year, so that by the end of this year, we have at least about 100 million textbooks that have QR codes that lead to our games. Of course, this unfortunate pandemic has given an impetus to this whole thing, because the governments have managed to distribute the textbooks. Now, the only limiting factor for us is, do children have access to smartphones? Currently, all surveys tell us that only 1 in 5 children have access to smartphones in the poorest communities in the country. So we are looking at ways and means of creating methods where phones could be available on rental, on a lease like structure as we move forward. But even with 20% smartphone penetration on a population of 100 million textbooks, you have actually a market size, that could be, anywhere from a few million to up to 20 million children.
Dr. Ashok, just giving you a 1-minute warning. Thank you.
Thank you. So between the Google Play Store approach and the Diksha approach, we believe that the stage is set now so that this year and the next year we will see millions of games being played. And our dream is to see that in the next 2 or 3 years, about 1 billion games will be played on smartphone across India in the language of choice across 9 languages, including English. And I'm hoping that many of you overseas will also take advantage of this, the English version that's available. And it's a free product, runs on an entry-level phone, and I think children will love it. Please do watch the video on the gallery that's, I believe, available, that shows you demos and stuff like that within the 7 minutes that were allotted to us. Thank you, and I'm open to all questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok. Everyone, again, please keep your questions. You can put them in the chat. We're going to return to them when we start the Q&A after all the 4 presentations. For the presenters, I'm going to be giving you the warnings in the chat. Maybe as we did with Dr. Ashok, we'll give the 1 minute verbally, but just monitor the chat during your presentation. So the next presenters, we have 2 presenters, are Lize Monametsi and Dr. Adegbesan. So Dr. Adegbesan is the founder and CEO of Gidi Mobile, creators of Gidimo, Africa's leading curriculum mastery and learning for livelihoods platform, with over 450,000 registered learners till date. He has a first-class honors degree in electronic engineering and a PhD in strategic management from the IS Business School. A recipient of multiple awards, he has been invited to speak at knowledge events in more than 20 countries across 4 continents. Lize Monametsi is the COO and product owner at AIM Limited. She transforms ideas into products, programs, and processes that work for all stakeholders. Leading teams of individuals from different industries, she takes societal or business problems and transforms them from a concept into something that addresses the business goals of organizations and the needs of end users. So we are looking forward to their joint presentation called High Quality Educational Gaming. So over to you, Lize and Dr. Adegbesan.
Thank you, Juan-Pablo.
Thank you. And over to you, Lize.
So we are going to try and share our video with you. You are welcome to double click on the thumbnail of the video on our video. Let me just see if this works.
Good afternoon. My name is Adegbesan, and with me today is my colleague Lize Monametsi.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so we're going to be talking to you about the partnership.
I think we just lost the sound.
We just lost the sound, Lize.
Okay,
We have severe challenges in learning with a huge number of children who will not go to school.
Is the sound back?
Yes, if we just scroll back a little bit.
Okay.
To drive self-learning through games and thereby reinvent school success. So this unfortunate picture on your screen is Africa. And as you can see, We have severe challenges with learning, with a huge number of children who will not go to school, a large number, 7 million, who will not learn basic skills. And even those who manage to get some schooling, as we can see, those in grade 4 and grade 5 are unable to read or write with fluency. And so there is no gainsaying there is an educational challenge already, and there has been for many years, and it's time to do something about it. But we think the answer is not education, because that is not what will solve the problem. Rather, it is learning. It is an increased focus, emphasis on the learning outcomes, not just on passing people through an educational process. And so we argue that to achieve school success, learning should be comprehensive, focused on mastery. It should be paced in line with the school calendar, accessible, and it should be fun. It shouldn't be boring and off-putting for the learners. And that is why we've come together with what we call Playful Recipe for Deep Learning, Reinventing School Success via Self-Learning. Gidimo and Papadi Games are here to use gaming to drive school success. And learning with our platforms, we target grades 7 to 12. And we have 53,000 Socratic learning questions and explanations covering all the topics in all the subjects. The learners require only 40 to 50 minutes per day, and at that pace, they will be able to cover all their entire curriculum before school ends. We've managed to onboard 365,000 learners on the platform in the past 6 years.
And we really facilitate the learning through fun engagements like the Grandmaster's Quest and Geomax, our geometry game. And then COVID-19 placed a very specific emphasis on helping parents and school partners to mitigate the effect of all the schools closing for safety reasons. And what we've got in that space, we realize has a lot of value, because our educator dashboard for parents and teachers can help the facilitators of learning to master the content. It can help learning to continue at a predictable and set pace while making it highly engaging still. And it can provide an alternative learning tool that doesn't actually require as much supervision. Here's a quick clip about the Gidimo School Success Program, followed by a clip of real gameplay of Geomax, the geometry game.
Introducing the Gidimo Senior School Program. This is an innovative mobile learning program that helps learners master the senior school curriculum way ahead of their peers in an easy, fun, and rewarding way. With Gidimo Senior School Program, learners participate in fun weekly activities, earning points and mastery badges after achieving objectives. Learners can train and compete with others in fun battles and tournaments. They can also redeem rewards for learning in the Gidimo SSP marketplace. After thoroughly mastering their curriculum, a learner then becomes a grandmaster. And this is what we live for as a company. One more grandmaster means one more learner who's mastered the curriculum comprehensively and at a faster pace than their schools. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead, download the Gidimo app from the Google Play Store today and start a child's curriculum mastery journey.
So just going to some outcomes, we have had some traction on this journey. We received a $1 million grant from Google.org to provide access to our platforms to economically disadvantaged youth. And we have a lot of very positive feedback from learners that is ongoing. They really love this approach to learning.
And specifically on the Papadi Games and the games on the platform, the initial research has shown that even if kids just play the game, they go from a space where they can't correctly define geometry concepts before playing the game to correctly and independently defining these concepts after playing Geomax. And from obviously the teacher side, which is a very important part of this, the facilitators learning, we've received very positive feedback on the fact that this way of learning is the future of education. And then from the learner side, that it is definitely a very cool game.
And so right now we are scaling our programs for successful learners in Nigeria. We're adding also a financial empowerment program in India and developing content for Francophone Africa. And as the way things are going, we expect to end 2020 with 300,000 additional learners. These are some of our past beneficiaries. As you can see, their learning environment is really not the best, and our interventions are trying to mitigate current problems while taking them much further. But we've also had lots of beneficiaries from our competitions and learning challenges, which the learners really enjoy, and it helps bring learning home to them. Well, what do we need to do now? We're trying to raise some more money to expand our current content base, to look at doing devices and data bundles for marginalized learners, and onboarding new learners to scale our products across Africa and India. So that's a summary of what we've been doing with Gidi and Papadi Games. Lize, do you have anything to say at the end?
Thank you for engaging with us, and we'd like to hear from you soon.
Well, that was excellent. That was on cue. TJ, Liz, you have like 30 seconds left. Anything else to add?
Well,
go ahead.
Okay, just to say that using gaming and gamification to drive engagement, we found has extraordinary results, especially for learner readiness. And we think it's an awesome approach to continue developing for learners who have had very often below average learning and classroom experiences. So we've had great results so far. Lize, anything?
I'd actually like to know what questions come from the people here on this forum. It's always good to engage with the professionals around us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa and Dr. Adegbesan. Now we're going to have the Q&A later. So now we're going to go to Mathika, presented by Eyal Dessoutzafrir. And Eyal, apologize if I did not pronounce your name well. Don't worry, Eyal, it's COVID-19. We all have young children there.
Yes,
so
yes,
that's all good. So just a really, really brief intro to Eyal. He's the entrepreneur, angel investor, and product developer. For the last 10 years, his focus has been on educational apps, with emphasizing the STEAM market with an A there. So over to you, Eyal.
Thank you very much. Hold on, I'm doing the sharing. Okay. Okay. I hope I don't hear myself twice. Everything is okay? Just to let you know.
So far,
can you hear me?
everything is okay. Yeah, we can hear
Excellent.
you, and we see
okay.
screen.
Okay, so let's start. Okay, I'm Israeli. I like to go to the, let's start. This is Mathika. Mathika, we're from Israel, Tel Aviv. Mathika is based on something called pedagogical democratic schools. Democratic schools, I have 3 girls. 3 of them go to democratic schools. Basically, it allows the kids to learn however they want, when they want, in any way they want. I'm sure everybody knows about the late Sir Ken Robinson with his famous lecture on TED, where he spoke about that not every kid is the same. We all know that schools created part of the Industrial Revolution. And for many, many years, even till today, there's a teacher standing in front of children and giving them knowledge. Well, we think that teachers are amazing and they should stay there and we should have them in every classroom. But I think, we think that, and we say it today with COVID, that kids can learn by themselves. If they don't, they should have the possibility of learning by themselves by giving them different tools, and that we need to trust them. So let's start and see what Mathika is all about. Here is Mathika. It's from 1st to 6th grade. If people with user interface observation can see that this really reminds you of Duolingo. What we did is we took Duolingo's user interface, which we thought was great, and we wanted kids to be able to see all of their curriculum, which of course can be changed based on the country. They can see all of their curriculum, what they're learning, where they're going. It's gamified. It's not a game. As you can see here, the percentages around each planet. This is a demo account, so it's very progressed. But they start with 0 and they have to get to 100. I'm going to show you how we do it. Basically, I'm showing you right now the Spanish version. We have Mathika in English, Spanish, Arabic, and Hebrew. I don't know why I thought, Spanish can be a nice change from the English. So let's go, for example, we're in 2nd grade, and either I go by myself, or the teacher told me what to do, or I'm at home, and the teacher in Zoom told me, hey, let's go to edition up to 50. So every time you go to a subject, there is a possibility to learn the way you want to learn. From what we've noticed and what we know is that kids in very young age, where we're targeting for 1st to 6th grade, even kindergarten, sometimes they know math, but they don't know how to read. And us as educators, well, brackets, I'm not an educator, I'm a social entrepreneur. Part of making Mathika is because I grew up as a stupid kid, or thinking that I'm stupid because I didn't know math. And we wanted to from me. So first of all, there's practice explanations to work into a practice that you know, which is true. Hold on, there's a problem with my internet. It's a bit slow. Here, go again. Okay, basically, and what you see is either practice and explanations. You see 45 seconds. Plus you about in the classroom, we want to focus on how. So let's go to verbal questions. Hold on, it will come up. I have 7 minutes, but I feel like they're slowing, so I'm doing it as quickly as I can. Here, these are verbal questions. Kids are, they need to move and ask the question here, for example. Okay, it's about addition, 25 plus 9 plus 2. I believe it's, let's say I do it correctly. What is it? 31, 36. Ah, I got a coin. Okay, without even understanding Spanish, I knew what to do here. This is also an example of learning math without needing to read, but here I answered the question. You go back, let's go to a different subject. That's the way kids move around, either again by the teacher or by themselves. It gives them the possibility to be more curious and to take control of their learning. Let's go to 3rd grade. Let's go to multiplication. And I'll try again, go here. Okay, here. First of all, we always give 4 answers because we want kids to trust themselves. So at the beginning, they have 4 answers. All they know is that they have to take the character from this side to this side. That's what the kids know by answering questions. What they don't know is by every time they answer, if they make a mistake, if they click on the video here, there's a video that explains to them about what multiplication is all about. Now, something very important about Mathika. Mathika is like a white label, meaning we can adjust to any country, any language, any curriculum. For example, in Spanish, we have this cute lady. In Hebrew, We have there are two of us in the company in terms of founders. We're two guys, so the character is a guy. In the Arab sector, it's an Arab woman. And if we would come to your country, we would make the adjustment accordingly. So the kid watches this video. There's a exercise here. Well, they watch the video. They don't understand still what is 7 times 4. So they can click on this. Another interpretation of what 7 times 4. On the left side, there are tools. These tools help the kids to, this one, for example, is like a calculator. 4 times 7, okay? I got the concept, I got it, okay, it's 28. But let's say I make a mistake, it's 24. So I made a mistake, I made a mistake, I made a mistake, or I guessed. Now when I answer, I move very slowly. If I answer correctly on the first time, then I would move faster. Kids know that. Now, as you can see, also here, math without language. Okay? Every time you pass 10%, those 4 questions either change, 4 answers, I'm sorry, or another option is being given, like a keyboard. For example, look here. We're talking here about fractions. Here's another question. We have here the help of this fraction tool. With Mathika, teachers can teach in the classroom a whole class, starting with this subject, this concept, and then going to questions, and then going to research tools, and move forward. This way, you can cater to any type of student. Look here. I'll show you.
1 minute warning. Thank you.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Let's go here. Here's 1 minute. This is the class management. Okay. This is the mapping of the classroom. We can see, let's see the progress of each student. We can see the progress throughout the year according to a subject. We can go to a specific student and see her progress. We can assign, we can lock. All the things that the student did here, of course, go here. This gives the teacher the ability to really know where the student is. There's much to explore in Mathika. We're open to partnerships around the world. We work with Israel to bring Mathika to refugee camps in Greece with Syrian kids, and in Colombia with kids from Venezuela, and starting in Chile. Now we're working with the Amorites, and of course in Israel with different kinds of different types of population. That's it. Stop.
Thank you, Eyal. Right on time. So again, the audience, you can put questions on the chat. Now we're going to move to Dr. Gordon Hamilton's presentation about the teaching the scientific method in math class. And I already made an introduction, but he's famous for being the designer of the board game Santorini. He's a team member of the Julia Robinson Mathematics Festival and director of mathpickle.com. So Gordon, over to you.
So I'm going to have all of my fellow presenters join me with video. Juan-Pablo, you too, just join me and share your mics. And you guys are now my grade 3 classroom. This is a mini mathematical universe. And this is your job to figure out the rules. Go ahead. You can you can poke at any square. You can choose any floor that you want to poke at. Go ahead. TJ, you're up first. You can, for example, say D4, and I will tell you what is behind D4. TJ,
okay. I'll say G6.
G6. Okay. I will tell you.
It's like submarines.
That's behind G6. It's a giant yellow square. Juan-Pablo, you're up next.
Okay, so can we have A13?
A13. I will tell you what's behind that. There we go. So you guys are at 0 points yet. You have to poke as scientists. You don't know what's going on. Whenever you're ready to guess, then if you guess correctly, you're going to get a point. If you guess incorrectly, you're going to lose a point. Okay, but there's no embarrassment to just poke. Eyal, you're up next. Go ahead.
Okay. B8.
B8. Please, go ahead.
Can I poke a yellow one?
If you poke a yellow one, that's just the answer. So you have you found the answer. We have now 3 giant squares.
Okay.
Then at any point you can make a hypothesis. So
can I make a hypothesis?
Absolutely.
Okay. My hypothesis is that there are only squares on this grid.
Good. And you can go ahead and poke.
L11, please.
L11. Back to you, TJ.
I will go for K2.
K2. It's a single square.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Juan-Pablo.
E11 for me.
E11?
Yeah.
Ashok.
Yeah. That was me, E11.
Yeah, you can just go for it, guys. You can talk among yourselves now and just organize the class. Normally with the class, I go around every single student. But now you can just start discussing, trying to figure out the rules for this mini mathematical universe. So the idea here is, instead of presenting the scientific method by getting your hands grubby with insects and leaves, the real world is complex. So to teach the scientific method, the idea here is to have a very minimalist universe that the kids are exploring. And that's what you guys are doing as my grade 3 classroom. We've got one hypothesis so far, and not an easy universe. You can see there's some complexity going on here that's difficult to figure out what on earth. I'm going to pretend that we have fast forwarded by maybe several minutes here, and you guys have got the solution to floor number 13. Here's the solution to floor number 13. You might want to look at that for a second, come up with some hypotheses about how floor number 14 might look. The same rules apply to floor number 14 as applied to floor number 13.
I'm going to recess.
Well, Lize's hypothesis seems to hold true, I believe. Yeah.
And so what I'm also seeing is that this is a 13 by 13 grid. So I'm going to take a stab at floor 14 and say that that's a 14 by 14 grid.
Correct.
Nice.
Gordon, do we get any points for this?
You get points whenever you start asking for squares. So if you ask me here on square 14, C4, and you correctly guess what is going to result, that's when you start getting points. Okay.
Is anyone seeing any other patterns?
So normally with a young classroom, I also give them the opportunity to go down to the lower levels. I start them off purposely at a really hard level. But then, like all good scientists, whenever you get confused and you look at this and you go, what the heck's going on? The correct response very often is to go to much simpler floors. So if we go to the first few floors, here's floor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that maybe gives some more insight. But you can see, still not easy.
Well, we have 2 minutes, a 2-minute warning that I'm giving myself as well as you guys.
That's good. The purpose here is not for you guys to win. The purpose is to showcase a methodology to teach the scientific method. I will show you. Let's go up to. Okay, well that's an interesting one for you to see. So that's a 10 by 10. Pauses in classroom are much undervalued. Even in my video tutorials, I need to shut down those kids who are fast thinkers. And I purposely will say 15 seconds, quiet. And I pretend to be studying this as well.
Yeah. So I see something here. A1, it's a single one, and then you start with a 2 by 2 right next to it, then a 3 by 3, then a 4 by 4. Here it holds for the first 3. Let's see.
That's the 13 for 13.
Yeah,
so
that's one.
You now are getting a whole bunch of points, Juan-Pablo, because you are now predicting what floor 14 is going to look like. And because I've just got a minute left, I'm going to accelerate through. This is no longer part of a normal lesson. I will accelerate through, and I will show you that you would have got a lot of points. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 by 4. So now you are starting to figure out some part of this universe.
And then you have to start decreasing because you couldn't do 5 by 5 because you wouldn't have enough. But the decreasing rule, I don't know. Anyway, we have we have like 30 seconds left.
Yeah. So I am not going to tell you the answer because I want you to feel the yearning that you have to figure this out. That is the same yearning that kids have in the classroom. You want to know the answer. Right now, you're only seeing, you have some ideas about how this universe works, but you don't have the whole picture. And that's a really irritating spot for you guys to be in. And I love that I'm torturing you like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent. Excellent. So now, as I said before, I think we're going to have a moderated discussion, but I also want to engage the audience as soon as possible. So I want to start with some of the questions I've seen on the chat for the presenters, and then when we need to, I also have questions. Also, feel free to ask questions to each other. I'm talking presenter to presenter. So starting with a question for Dr. Ashok. Going back to the theme from an earlier session, how did you and your team evaluate impact of the app at the onset?
Okay, so when we started to build the app, we used, so our goal was always to put it in open source. So we started to design the games, and we had a test group of 1,600 children with whom we would test these games before deciding to put them into the product. So we went through several iterations of that and got feedback from children. And children were not from one part of the geography, it was from multiple parts of the geography, so we could get different opinions from different parts. So we were able to pull in all those opinions into the product design and build the product. Beyond this, as the product went into use, we've been tracking children in terms of what is the usage, how long they spend on it, where have they moved? Have they moved from level, a simpler level to a more complicated level, and so on. And we are seeing nice trajectories emerging out of this whole thing. Of course, we do not give out child-by-child data because this is a free product and GDPR does not allow you to do that. So we don't make that known, but we clearly are able to look for a given small area, how do the children in that area, how are they moving from levels to levels. So that's how we've been doing the tracking.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok. And then for TJ and Lize, How can we get the application? How it links the application back to the school? Do you build classrooms now? Which seems to me a strange question, but over to you.
Well, thank you very much. The applications are on Play Store, so we also use Google Android Play Store as well as the website. And in terms of the question of how it links back to school, it's, at least Gizmo is designed as a curriculum mastery game. So the idea is, they use it to master what they're doing in school, right? So for every subject, every topic that the learners treat in school, they have sort of like a corollary on the app for deeper mastery and assimilation, topic by topic, in a sort of like progressive way. We don't build classrooms, but what we do is we go to villages and we have a special program whereby we onboard people who can't afford very good schools or even very good technologies onto the platform for free, and we help them to sort of like supplement the gaps in the government-provided learning for them. Lize, do you want to talk about Papadi?
I'm actually interested to know whether the question is about physical classrooms or non-physical classrooms. So the one thing is that, so obviously with our target audience, target users, it needs to be offline accessible. So yes, you need to download it up front, but then you need to be able to master the content offline. And in that sense, it caters for offline use, but also if you are able to be online, you can build classrooms with kids from wherever. Like in Geomax, for example, you can compete on the geometry game against whoever you choose. You just link those people to a classroom and you can compete against them no matter where they are. But you can also use one device. So basically, it caters for various environments, whether you're online or offline, whether you have friends around you or friends far away from you. You can also use one device for multiple kids. It's not that you need one device per child, which we know is not the case often. So in our platforms, we try to cater for all these different environments. The one thing that remains is, well, the two things actually, is that it's gamification. So it needs to be always fun, and it's games, it's real games. In Geomax, for example, we recreated a geometry environment. We're not hiding the fact that it's about geometry. We're really putting it out there. This is about geometry. But guess what? It really is as much fun as any other games that you like playing with your friends or on your phone. And one last environment that I'd like to talk about is just that it works, as Dr. Ashok also indicated with their platform, on entry-level phones. So we don't have content that you need the latest iPhone for, because we know that that's not going to work in the majority of environments that we're catered for.
Okay. Thank you. I think Dion Kellerman and Iñaki Alejandro Sanchez had, I think it's sort of a similar question, so I'm going to make it open, and it's for all of you, for each of you. This is about the sort of the changing role of teachers. When you're presenting these experiences, they are products, but they're also experiences. When you're presenting these different ways of experiencing learning, of course, something happens to the student, the learner, but also something happens to that person that is in the classroom, remote classroom, or even the parent, the caregiver. So how do you address sort of, in the case of teachers or heads of department, is sort of conservative or skeptical teachers about the use of technology or the use of these new ways or re-emerging ways of teaching? How do you address that cultural barrier, might be behavioral, not cultural? And again, what sort of change does this imply for the teacher's role, and sort of what services do you offer to teachers so that they can go with you along this journey of change? So to everyone, perhaps starting with Dr. Ashok, then Liz and TJ, then Eyal, and finally Gordon.
Yes.
Dr. Ashok.
So, as I said, during my presentation, that we designed this product to be supplementary to classroom instruction. The fact that the child at the bottom of the pyramid does not have a learning environment in the home, and that during the work week gets about 2 to 2.5 hours of math instruction, clearly is not good for the child, to be attracted to math. So this was designed as a supplementary product, which means that without teacher buy-in, this was a product that won't have gone anywhere. So teachers are very familiar with this product. So we work close, like I said, we work in 70,000 schools. So we work closely with teachers, making them familiar with this. And now, since the textbooks also have the QR codes, the teachers are much more tuned to the fact that giving homework becomes easier, saying, scan this chapter's QR code and you will see these 4 games come up, play these 2 and tell me what you thought about it tomorrow morning, right? So I think always thinking what's in it for me in the eyes of the teacher was important for us in the design of this product, because otherwise you would meet with a lot of pushback for adoption of something like this. So always thinking what's in it for the teacher, what's in it for the child was very, very important in the design. So we brought all those elements into the design, and I think that's the one that's making it work. Last point I think is that these things will work at scale only if there's large scale collaboration between the government, between the school systems, between the non-profit, volunteer world, whatever you want to call us. And technology in itself is fairly inexpensive today at a per game level. We see almost negligible, right? So I think the collaboration, is extremely important for it to work. So without that, I think there is no place.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok. Liz, TJ, and your thoughts on this area.
Okay, I just want to say that I think that the onus is on the innovator to give very careful thought to where exactly in the educational process and the educational ecosystem our own products fall. Because very often difficulties or conflicts come from not having carefully thought through this point I'm making. And our experience is that there are different kinds of problems, there are different kinds of players in the educational process. And you have the schools, you have the institutions, you have the educators, you have the parents, you have the homes, so it's different if you're designing a product for in-classroom use, in-classroom engagement, or after outside class in-school use, or at home to assist the parents with follow-up, or at home to assist the learner with assimilation. Each of these kinds of products requires a different role from each stakeholder. So if one is trying to build a product that is to be used in conjunction with the on-premise learning and does not work with the principal educators, obviously it's not going to work. But if it's a product that is supposed to help the learners, sort of assimilate what they've been taught, or to tease out personal specific issues, frictions that an individual learner might have with an individual topic. That's a much more personalized kind of pathfinding that you find. And we span across all these. Gidimo started off focusing mostly on the after-school and home assimilation of learners. And that was the problem we were facing, because there were constraints with the school system. And the idea at the time was, okay, given what we have in these African school systems and the difficulties of improving them, what can we do for the learners? But then after the teachers see the improvements in the learners and they ask, okay, how do we get involved in this? Then that learner side platform allows you to build in teacher tools, which are for them to assign work, to track, to gain insight on what topics to focus on when they get back to class. So the mindset differs depending on who you're building and who it's for. But I think above all, it's very, very important to be very clear on what part of the educational process you are focusing in, who are the stakeholders at that stage of the educational process, and to design for them. If you try to do everything for all parts and all stakeholders all at once, it's probably going to be very difficult, and it's also going to be difficult to get buy-in.
Thank you. Lize?
Yes, I'd just like to add actually a very specific example. So what we're saying is that user experience, right? And the user can be very different depending on the context and the environment. And I'd like to give you a very specific example of a solution to that problem. If you think about gaming in education, so not just gamification, but real gaming, and how teachers, or let me say the facilitators of learning, so whether it be teachers or parents or peers, to get them acquainted with it means meeting them where they are. And we took on different modes in that. To give you two examples, when a learner plays Geomax, and you can double tap on the screen again if you want to focus on it. When a learner plays Geomax, they just play. And the game is designed so that they can intuitively start playing. But when a teacher plays, the teacher is able to see these notes within the game. And it's a small way of just making sure that teachers are facilitated through the process before they present it to learners. So the learners, once again, this yellow block, they don't see this yellow block. And then for teachers who don't even want to engage with the game specifically, we've even got a slideshow where you can work your way through the game without ever playing the game. And there are teachers who are too uncomfortable to actually play the game, whereas learners, they jump in, they play it. So a teacher can choose which mode he or she is comfortable with the game, and this just presents the game in a slideshow format with all the notes that the teacher can otherwise see in the game. So it's really about meeting the facilitator of learning, whether a teacher or a parent or whoever, where they are, and not assuming anything about the experience they need to get acquainted with this mode of learning.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. And for Eyal and Gordon, I mean, and for the others, if you could provide sort of examples of what sort of support you provide to teachers, additional teacher training, etc., or is this something that you tackle at the design stage with focus groups and quick feedback loops, and then you design and you assume some sort of average effect or average behavior, or is it something that is continuous? So Eyal and Gordon, but the original question, the second one is only an accent I wanted to provide.
Oh, okay. From what we did is, first of all, we did an MVP, minimal viable product, with 10 schools. We try to see what works. It was very simple, but basically it's the structure of Mathika. It's the DNA, to see if it works in the classroom. If the teacher can let go and let them really explore by themselves, without the need to raise their hand. And that's why we added a lot of self-learning tools. Again, our point of view is not to eliminate the teacher, but to give the teacher the opportunity to teach math and not to be a police officer. I think it's also part of a culture in the classroom. It's a part of a cultural thing. If you look at class in Israel, it's a mayhem. Okay? It's mayhem. It is. But if you go to China or you go to a different, place that we explored, then the job of the teacher is totally different. That's one thing. Second, what we do in order to, the problem that we see in a lot of schools, for example, is the lack of infrastructure. They have one, they can be, Israel, for example, here is called the land of startup nation. Okay, nice. But at the end of the day, when you go to the street, when you go to the schools, some of the schools have one computer in the classroom. And you talk to the teachers, and the teachers saw so many environmental, educational environments throughout the years, from the days of edutainment till today, that they're tired. They have no time. Teachers are the most busy people in the world, and you come and you say, okay, hey, try this. What we wanted to do is wanted to come from the ground. For example, we wanted to make adding a class to be very simple. Just add a class. So it seems stupid, but it was very important for us to add a day-to-day UX techniques that we use in things like WhatsApp and messengers and stuff that's easy for us, versus show a complex solution, and then we have to come again and again. We come one time to the school. Now these days we do it with Zoom, and we do sometimes conferences for like 40 teachers, and all of the teachers around the world ask the same questions. They have the same questions, they face the same problems, and it's important because we see it's like it's a common field for all of them, because they want to be available for the students, but they don't have time, so we provide that. They want to be knowledgeable for the students, and who are you knowledgeable for? You're going to the strong kids, you're going to the weak kids. Usually the middle is being left out. So for us, so we come to the school, we're available on every media, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, like on any messenger, email, phone. We come and we explain, and I have to say we don't have videos that explain Mathika. What we do is something else. We give it to the teachers, and we tell teachers, let the children explain to you. And the children explain to them Mathika. So it gives math, it makes the class more involved. This way, for example, when a teacher comes to me and says, listen, I have one computer and I have all these softwares, how do I use it? Show me. So we come and we bring kids to the front of the classroom. The teacher needs to see the involvement of the class, that they don't need to, persuade them to use it, that they don't need to learn a complex system. It's there, and it's available online, and it's available on their phone and tablets, and make it easy. That's what I think. Just make it easy for them, not because they're stupid, because they have so much on their mind and wanted to be agnostic to anything they have.
Thank you, Eyal. Gordon, over to you.
So where I most help teachers is, number one, in talking to parents. Teachers in North America don't have a lot of power, and so it's sometimes really important for me to directly talk to parents and say, what we want in the classroom is deep problem solving. How you can best help at home. How do you get problem solving into the home? Is it doing these worksheets? Okay, but primarily it's adopting a board game in the home and beating your child every week at that board game. That's what you want to be doing as parents. So that's the number one thing that I do, is I talk to parents. The number two thing is I sort out what I consider the great stuff out there from the mediocre. What I want to see are deep problem solving, deep mathematics, not just arithmetic. Too many times we end up recommending games that are educational games that only do the multiplication, division, and miss the number one thing, and that's problem solving. I want to have kids socializing with each other. I want that deep mathematical experience. And I want to, for it sometimes to be slow and methodical. We're not in this for an adrenaline rush. I want it to be slow and methodical, deep learning. So that's what I try to help with. I'm not just for my products. I'm just for products all over the world that do that beautifully, and I try to help out where I can.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to be a little selfish here. So I work for UNICEF, right? And I know perhaps we have people from the World Bank online, Brookings, multilaterals, bilateral agencies. And one of the sort of the great challenges from a donor perspective or a program designer perspective is the breadth and sheer number of resources out there. with not, it's a market that doesn't have common metrics that speak meaningfully to the donor or the program designer. It's a market where data is shared sort of in a very sort of piecemeal way. There's a pilot over here, great results, probably the bad results you never see. So how do you as entrepreneurs, how do you position yourselves to grow in this very competitive and opaque environment? What could the environment, what sort of improvements could be there in the environment? Is it about government? Is it about UNICEF, World Bank, UNESCO, UNHCR, everyone sort of speaking the same language? Is it about common metrics? How do we guide, the macro level, the people investing billions of dollars of taxpayers' money in this, or just the teacher that needs resources? It's very difficult to search and to make sure that something is of quality. And as Eyal said, there's no time. Like, teachers have no time. And as program designers, we have a little bit more time, but it's very hard to get aggregated quality assured information about sort of contrasting quality. So what sort of thoughts do you have about my problems and the problems of teachers?
Can you define your problem again? I'm sorry.
Well,
There's a difference between quality.
No, absolutely. The
and
problem,
finding.
no, but it's the problem for everyone. There's, the last
Oh, I
count, there
know.
was 80,000 educational apps in Google Play.
But they're not necessarily educational.
Yeah, educational is very broad, right? But if you're a teacher,
Right.
like, how do I find the things that are right for me? If you're a program designer from the World Bank, or from a government, or from a multilateral UN agency, how do you find the toolkit that you could support and tell governments, this is recommended? You should invest in this. You should invest in having this toolkit through your education system. How do you tackle that searching for quality, contrasting and searching for quality among all these sheer amount of resources that change every day?
Well, if I could just jump in there, I think I have three things on my mind. One is focus, the other is allowing failure, and the third is time. So when I think of education, I think that's one of the hugest words in human existence, right? So education is a huge thing. You have tertiary, secondary, primary, you have subjects, you have life. So that word education or edtech, I think in itself is too huge and I'm thinking now from the program manager's perspective and trying to say, okay, if you want to span all the different types of people doing something for education, you could have people, and I say this literally from a project I've been involved in Nigeria, you could have people who bake bread. They're part of the educational ecosystem to feed the kids in school, to people who process leather, to people who make bags, to people who make apps, to people who make books. So it's such a huge ecosystem. And probably all those pieces are actually probably quite important, to be honest, right? So I think there is some breadth to the nature of the beast, which requires my first suggestion, which is focus, because I could therefore be a program manager that I have to give up, as maybe I had to pass through, my desire to change the entire educational world and say, you know what, I want to see if I can make a dent on after-school personal assimilation, or I want to make a dent on geography for grade 7. It doesn't sound very ambitious, but I really think that if we don't focus on specific programs, and then you do find people who have this kind of narrow program and you don't fit in and you feel sad, but I think that person with that narrow program is pushing the envelope. So I think we require focus, we require time. I think edu is an unforgiving space. If you're not creating value, sooner or later, it's very difficult to keep going. So time and allowing failure, so if we keep propping me up because you like me very much and you don't allow me to naturally go as I ought to, perhaps, then you continue this over heterogeneity, And then the third thing is, so what focus was time, and the third thing I thought of just slipped my mind. But I think the focus piece, I'm very, very passionate about that. I think it's a huge beast. And the way forward is to focus on pieces, and then hopefully somehow they can, maybe it's like scientific method, maybe it'll all come together at some point. But trying to build everything from the top and cover everything at once, I think, is not really. So it's the heterogeneity and the fragmentation may not be a bad thing. It may just be that it's a huge space, and then different people focus on different things. So that's my personal take.
Thank you.
I think as an entrepreneur, if I may say, as a business owner, part of my job is to be in front of you. And to be in front of you, it's not different than any other market. The educational market is like, we all familiar with the blue ocean, red ocean. This is like an Armageddon ocean. This is crazy. But it's our job to create a great software, a great piece of tool that can assist kids. And yes, if you go, Ashok is from India, and in India you have Baiju, but you have other stuff also, but Baiju gets the most attention. What can you do? I just read they raised $500 million. Does that mean they're better than Ashok's solution? Not necessarily, but that's part of, the capitalist world, and we want to be there and want to help and assist. And what can we do? We chose a profession that is not as, it's hard. We're doing what we do in education. It's hard.
Yeah. Let me add another.
Anyone else had?
Let me add another dimension. When we started to design this, we thought of large scale from the beginning. It wasn't like you design something, do a pilot, and then figure out what works, and then scale up what works. It was designed from the beginning to be scaled up. So whatever we did from the beginning, we said, if it doesn't hit 200 million children in 5 to 7 years, then it's probably not done its job, right? So issues like offline, online, issues like multiple languages, issues like entry-level phones, these were all the mandates that are required to go to the bottom of the pyramid. You may have great content, but if you can only be a Baiju's, then you're only impacting a small segment of society that can pay. We were saying, can we go down to everybody? And therefore, I think the design mandate in our head was completely different. How do you hit 200 million kids? And I think that's a dimension that many other countries may not have. I'm sure Israel doesn't have that problem, but Nigeria certainly does.
We have 200.
Gordon, Lize, any comments on this question? No, go ahead, Lize.
I think so. Sure, Juan-Pablo, your question really hit hard in a sense, because the fragmentation in the market is also affecting the innovators in the market, and I think quite drastically. The number of good edtech products out there with entrepreneurs backing them that have, they don't necessarily even come from the educational space. They saw a problem, kids are not learning, and they wanted to solve it. And the disillusionment that comes with the fragmentation and not knowing how to define success. So Ashok, you mentioned we need to hit that many kids or that many users, whether they're kids or not. Whatever that focus is, to hit that right focus is a true challenge. And I think the surprises are imminent. What I mean is that, Tunji, taking Gidimo to India and the surprises there, that sort of thing of not thinking that it'll work even necessarily. And then when you hit that user base and people are actually responding so positively to it, it comes as a surprise. So it's very, very difficult, I think, to define success in the first place, and then to experiment rapidly enough and in a sustainable way that you hit that success. And success being, in the end, really learning. There was a whole other discussion earlier today about, how to measure that. How do we really know what's going on there? And I find other industries to be quite inspiring in that aspect of things, because in software development, it's very specific. There are specific products being built just around the measurement of how successful the software product is. And I think we can learn from other industries as to how can we really measure success and then capitalize on those successes. Because if the fragmentation continues in this way, I think it can slow progress. It can slow progress. It can slow learning for kids who actually need to be learning.
That is my sensation, at least, what it transpired, because I think there's resources that are not being unlocked because it's very hard to know when and where to invest. So to all the presenters and Shanti, I think we hit 12:15. I think this is the time we need to end. It is a pity for me because this conversation was very, very interesting. Hope to I assume that your information is going to be available. The videos, they were already made available. Probably in the videos there's contact email, etc. But I just wanted to make sure that we give it, like, all of you, what's the best way to contact you if you want to be contacted. So, Gordon, what's the best way to contact you?
Gord@mathpickle.com. So
perfect.
That's my email.
Gord,
I'll write that in the chat.
Thank you. Eyal, what's the best way to contact you? Twitter, LinkedIn, or?
I'm putting email and email. Email is the best. So we can use birds.
Excellent, Lize. I saw you put your email there. TJ, you want to be contacted or you want to go the LinkedIn way?
Contacted. Anyhow, you're comfortable. Email, I put my email, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all. And I really enjoy this. And hopefully next time we can do a longer one.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.